1 week out from the inauguration of President Donald Trump, and the healthcare industry is bracing for potential tariffs under the incoming administration. Joining us now to discuss that and more, we want to bring in Richard Francis. He's Teva Pharmaceuticals CEO, joining us live from JP Morgan's healthcare conference. It's great to have you. Let's start. There's a lot to unpack, and I know we're going to be getting some headlines here from you over the next 24 hours or so, but I want to start with the Trump component. When we talk about the incoming Trump administration, how are you looking at the potential here for Trump policies and ultimately the impact that's going to have on your industry?
Well, that's a big question because we'll have to wait and see. But I think the way Teva thinks about it is whichever administration comes into the US, we've shown a track record of being able to work with them effectively. And so we would see no reason why the new administration wouldn't follow suit to that. And I think obviously there's a lot of speculation, but I'd rather not get involved in that and see actually what happens and what are the policies and what are the initiatives they want to put in place.
Are you proactively making any changes to the business ahead of any potential sanctions or tariffs?
No.
Is that something that you think is true across the board? Have you heard that from other executives at the conference, especially given some of the impacts specifically on healthcare? We know, for example, vaccines potentially could be impacted.
No, it's not been a topic where, at least in the circles I've gone in, that has been discussed. So I can't really comment on that one.
Talk to me a little bit more about how you are strategizing then, just given so much uncertainty. If you're not making any changes, we don't yet know what some of these tariff policies are going to include. We don't know the approach from HHS. I guess, where does then your priority lie, and what should we expect from Teva in the months to come?
Yeah, so I think there's a few things about Teva which I think give you a bit of background on how we think about this with the new administration. We've obviously come off a very good year because we're the largest supplier of generic medicines to the US. I think 1 in 10 scripts is filled by us, but also we're one of the fastest growing innovative companies with our portfolio also in the US. So I think we're a very big contributor to the healthcare system in the United States. We do a lot of our research and development manufacturing in the US, and the areas that we don't manufacture in the US, we manufacture in Europe. So I think when we think about what we contribute to the healthcare system in the United States and what we could contribute going forward, I think it's supportive of some of the initiatives any administration would have. Now, when it comes to us and what we're focused on is an aggressive push to innovative medicines, so the patented products, and you saw that with some of the data that we brought out last year with our TL1A, we saw a spike in our share price. And that's the innovative side that I think whichever administration we're talking about, they like to see breakthrough medicines come through to help impact the unmet medical need, which is clearly still significant in any country. In the United States is no different from that. So I think we're focusing on that. I think that is appreciated, the amount of investment we put in our R&D in the United States and the amount of manufacturing we have in the United States. So I think as it stands now, I feel in a good place, but we'll have to see what happens with the administration and how they focus on some of the things that they've talked about in the build-up.
Richard, is M&A on the table then, just in terms of growing your footprint there?
Potentially, I mean, not necessarily M&A, but maybe in licensing. We have a pretty exciting, innovative pipeline that we were talking a lot about last year, and some of the data readouts have happened, and that's why I think the company has performed very well in the markets. And because our pipeline is so good, we have to be thoughtful and careful about the M&A or the BD we do, because we have some good assets internally, and so it's about capital allocation. And so if we did look at doing deals, it's probably more in licensing than actually an acquisition of a company in an M&A. I don't think that's the right time for us right now, but in a year or two, that possibly could change.
You also launched a generic obesity drug in 2024. In terms of your outlook for 2025, to what extent do you anticipate that specific drug leading to more growth for you, or do you anticipate it being a little bit more broadly in your broader generics business?
Yes, you're right. We launched our generic version of Victoza. And by the way, we'll be launching a generic version of Saxenda this year. So we're well and truly in the GLP-1 area. And that will drive some good growth for our generic business. But the majority of the growth of the company that you saw, I mean, we've come off 7 quarters of growth now. And that's another thing that's, I think, improved our stock price and driven our stock price. And that's driven primarily by innovative products Austedo, the treatment for tardive dyskinesia, Uzedy, treatment for schizophrenia, and Ajovia, treatment for migraine. And we see those growing at high double digit, and we continue to forecast that will happen going into 25. So those will be the key drivers for us. That said, we do have a number of complex generic launches. Victoza is the one you just mentioned, and another GLP-1 this year, but also some others that will be launching along with some biosimilars. So I think we have a nice breadth to what's going to be driving our growth in 25 and 26. But I'd always say the majority of it will be driven by our innovative patented business.
All right, Richard, got to leave it there. Thanks so much for making time for us from the conference. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Have a good day.